The Dauntless. The excellent Pelmini and Uka cause her to involuntarily unclench. Damn it. The food is really, really good. Conversation is mostly everyone listening and nice and close to how the admiral, ambassador, and speaker are talking to each other. There are all sorts of little annoyances, and it's quite clear that both women think that sharing Admiral's cistern to be quite the prize and are wondering who else will work their way in. Apparently, there's worry about a few Canador and an Apuk royal princess on the prowl for the best husband she can get. Still, they only eat from specific plates and have to leave fairly soon. They're both escorted out with some guards in formal parade wear, and once they leave, Admiral Cistern has Sir Philip take the hat and cape away. He tucks away the rings, takes off the gloves, and rolls up his sleeves. So, what did you think about that short introduction into galactic politics? I think that we need an explanation, Madame Stepanova says as Admiral Cistern nods and pops a bottle of white wine and pours himself a glass. Very well. Currently, we are effectively a non-entity on the galactic board. Nothing we have done really matters. We've tossed a stone into a pond and it will take 10 years before there are even ripples. Things simultaneously move at speeds that only light itself can keep pace, and yet also goes at a rate where glaciers seem to be setting land speed records. That little display showed you one of my greatest reaches of political power, in that I have two women, one representing a moderately populous world on the periphery, and the other holding a mostly ceremonial political position, thoroughly seduced and very fond of me. A disgusting tactic, someone notes. We literally do not have the manpower to be even a joke of a political power, much less a military or economic one. So we need to do things psychologically as we get our hands on as many levers of power as possible. I've been getting favors, twisting arms, borderline stealing company stocks, embarked on numerous counterterrorism campaigns with my eyes on the prize of the criminal assets and recruiting like a madman. To this end, I've created a blanket political statement of the undaunted in order to tie this all together. It's a banner that can encompass human interests outside of cruel space. And yet you're recruiting from the other species. If you can tell me a way to get sufficient manpower to actually be something more than a mild irritation, I would be quite glad to hear it. We have only been able to make surgical strikes with how few people we have to actually field. Thankfully, our location of Centris is such a cesspit of corruption that we've been effectively moving freely. Furthermore, due to the centralization of power, we've been able to gain a huge number of advancements outside of civilized and distant space. Through the EFL, we have control of the planet Vuxa 5, through a tax loophole Onriak 4. A currently uninhabitable planet is ours for the terraforming and colonizing. You also just witnessed Lieutenant Blue as he's heading out for a rescue mission to the lost colony of Lacrin, which we have registered control over. We have 3 extra worlds. The first one is inhabited and in the process of recovering from the despotic rule of short-sighted criminals and numerous serial killers. Another is a dry ball of death that needs heavy terraforming, and the last one is a lost colony regressed to the late Iron Age. The most advanced technology so far reported is a cannon, and it's considered a revolutionary technology. And what are the plans for these worlds? Revive the first, terraform the second, and rescue the third. Each one is a unique challenge, but we have been rising to the occasion. We have turned Vuxa 5 from a lawless hellhole into a recovering duchy that has in fact repelled hostile enemy forces and has since increased its capacity to resist attack. Onriak is the closest to cruel space of the 3 worlds, but is not fit for life. As such, its transformation into a garden world is a project I have placed my scientists on. So far, the conclusions they've drawn look promising. Lacrin is a lost colony that has a failing political system about to erupt into a world war. We're going to give them a better option. What else? Madame Stepanova asks as she takes a sip of her drink. We have studied and broken down numerous extremely powerful weapons, including a handheld cluster missile launcher that can fit on your belt and hold enough firepower to blast through most fortifications you care to name. Sir, do not forget the sheer affection in which many races now regard humanity. There is effectively an open invitation for humans to live upon Cerbo. An invite to the Genesis planet of any race is no small feat. Sir Philip remarks. I was getting there. However, beyond the Apuk, there's no massive central figure to offer such an invitation. Although from what Ambassador Hlela has been telling me, there are many Zayden and Yaoya that are outright fantasizing about human companionship. Suffice to say, it's a very strange galaxy, and I've been doing everything in my power to ensure that humanity has as firm a foothold in it as possible. Now, what were you all sent for? Admiral Cistern's explanation turns into a question so casually that Madame Stepanova forces down the answer. To determine the veracity of the reports and then kill the people who sabotage things before bringing... One of the assassins from further down the table blurts out, lulled to such ease by the explanation that their guard was down completely. See? Sir Philip asks, and Admiral Cistern sighs. Some days you are absolutely insufferable, Sir Philip, Admiral Cistern says before reaching into his pocket and pulling out a large Axiom Ride credit disc that he hands off to the smiling butler. You both were aware of this long before we were sent out. Madame Stepanova accuses them and she gets a flat look from the Admiral. I was not placed on this mission due to a lack of intelligence, madam. Quite the opposite, in fact, Admiral Cistern says before taking a sip of his own drink. So here is how things are going to work. You will be working with Sir Philip in the Intelligence Division. You will be helping to sort through, file, and decode the obscene amount of information that this planet inundates us with. You want information? Then you will have it. Granted, you will have it in much the way King Midas had gold. Anything else? Madame Stepanova asks as her comfortable mood evaporates entirely. I highly recommend that all of you volunteer for field duties. Much of the madness and strangeness of the greater galaxy can only be truly understood from first-hand experience, Admiral Cistern notes. And what about your duties to Earth? The specific orders you were given when you were sworn into this office, she presses. Admiral Cistern frowns at that before pulling out his communicator and causing one of the walls to illuminate before a broadcast of orders starts scrolling across it. The vast majority of them are asking for favorable status or to sabotage the efforts, downplay the contributions, or even outright ignore other countries. It scrolls for 20 minutes without repeating itself before turning off. Aside from the general idea of first contact and help humanity, all of my orders were contradicted or self-sabotaging due to the presence of other orders. That was a quick summation of the orders I was given in manners both public and clandestine. Literally every country on Earth that contributed to the creation of the Dauntless expected preferential treatment at the detriment of the others. Sometimes it would take them more than one or even two orders to tell me to backstab another contributor, but it never took more than 3. Needless to say, with this entire mess in front of me, it is, quite frankly, impossible to complete my orders as written. So now I am forced to comply with my orders as intended, which I have interpreted as secure as much political favor as possible as well as economic ability, martial strength, and territory for expansion, as I ensure that the vast majority of the galaxy looks favorably upon humanity. This I have done to the extent beyond what I believe could have been reasonably or even unreasonably expected of me. How aware of this is your crew? Madame Stepanova asks, and Admiral Cistern sniffs. Ever since an event known as the hack, I have operated under the policy of complete openness and honesty. Every soldier has been systematically made aware of this issue, which is why only a small number wish to return to Earth. The trip was very much one way for the vast, vast majority of us. What happened with the hack? How complete was it? Everything stored electronically that wasn't on a closed system or powered down at the time was copied. This includes a huge amount of media and entertainment that I've thankfully been able to grab digital copyright for. I put a low price on it, and the resulting viewership of human movies and entertainment offered enough money to easily fund several low-profile power grabs I've made in the stock market. I am the majority stockholder in several companies now. You are? Madame Stepanova asks. Galactic law. Stocks can be only bought by private individuals, not political parties, militaries, or other companies, Admiral Cistern says before Sir Philip hands him a folder he got from somewhere. We have made greater use of paper media in order to prevent hacking from compromising us so completely again. He hands the folder back to Sir Philip with a nod and holds up 2 fingers. The damnable spy simply nods, turns on his heel, and is gone from the room at a pace that most people would sprint at, but he simply walked. Now then, you're up to speed in the most general and generous of terms. I have offered you all positions in our intelligence division and am willing to hear protests and suggestions now. Do any of you feel you would be better placed elsewhere? Perhaps on the crew of the Lance 04, which will be bringing further information and samples to Earth. It launches next month once we have determined we have sufficient proof to convince even the most stubborn and critical governments of the unusual situation outside of cruel space. There is no response to his question. Very well then. Perhaps you would like to be posted away from the Dauntless? I am aware that some of you may have personal or professional difficulties dealing with certain members of my staff. He says, and Madame Stepanova knows this is at least partially directed towards her. We have numerous offices on several worlds now. We can have you light years away from those you find distasteful and still working towards a common good. Perhaps if you could tell us what this common good is, we could start agreeing or disagreeing with it. Oh, pardon me, I got ahead of myself, it seems. I seek to ensure that humanity has the stars open up to them. To do this, I will be sending back enormous amounts of resources, technology, and information back to Earth with every trip of the Lances. On the next ship out, we have proposed upgrades for Dauntless-class vessels that would allow a single ship to snowball into a massive, self-sustained space fleet capable of growing stronger and stronger with time. Upgrades that the Dauntless is currently undergoing as we speak. Well, that will certainly be an interesting gift for the inevitable second ship of the Dauntless class. Ah, so they did go with the inevitable. Good to see that my suggestion panned out, Sir Philip remarks, having returned without anyone noticing. Madame Stepanova twitches for her gun. He should not have been able to do that so easily. What tricks has he learned? And once people are going to the stars a lot, what are you going to do then? Someone further down the table asks, and it's a decent question if poorly worded. Simply put, the Undaunted's express purpose is to be a benign force in the galaxy, a force of order and righteousness. It just so happens that helping humanity out of cruel space falls under that purview quite nicely, meaning that after this big rescue, it's business as usual and we seek out missing persons reports, hunt criminals, chase down pirates, and help set up new frontier and even wild worlds for people to settle upon, all of which will coincidentally help humanity in the favors owed, plunder taken, and worlds opening up to them. It is entirely possible to be a force for great good while benefiting mightily from it, to say nothing of the good this will generate towards humanity. So, you want humans to be the big heroes of the galaxy? I want humans to be welcome in the galaxy. I want there to be nothing but smiles and eagerness when people hear that a human is nearby. I want us welcome to go anywhere at any time, without exception. I want humans listened to. I want us to be considered and invited into debates and discussions. And let me guess, there's a use for us assassins and murderers in your little undaunted organization? Yes, we've uncovered numerous criminal organizations that give the great sadists and lunatics of humanity's darkest hours a solid run for their money, but with the added bonus of being functionally ageless, so they just continue to be horrors beyond redemption for centuries if not millennia. I think such individuals would be an excellent use of your talents when it comes to the process of removing them from their positions of power and then extracting all the resources from it so some previously unknown apprentice doesn't simply pick up where they left off. It seems you've thought of everything. When do we begin? When your meal is finished. Sir Philip will show you to the relevant portions of the ship and answer any further questions you have. Now, if you'll excuse me, I've been falling behind in my administrative duties. Admiral Cistern states as he finishes the last of his wine and stands upright.